Hello, plus two students. I'm Ruchita Sharma, lecturer in English, GESSS Bertie. Today's lesson is to read Deep Water Part 2 by William Douglas from your book Flamingo. To recapitulate, Part 1 of Deep Water, we went through the phase when William Douglas stood with his dad on the beach at California and a big wave almost swallowed him. So, William Douglas has recounted in this lesson his childhood fear of water. But he also wanted to get over his fear and learn swimming anyway. So he decided to join the YMCA swimming pool at Yakima. Unfortunately, he was ducked into the deep end of the pool by a mischievous 18-year-old lad. As a result, Douglas had to undergo a chilling underwater struggle. He had a near-death experience. William Douglas shares with the reader the sense of panic that gripped him as he almost drowned in the YMCA pool. Douglas has vividly described his experience with each and every detail of his thought process and body movements. So now students, our learning outcomes for today are to read and comprehend part 2 of this lesson, to critically analyze the passages, to learn new vocabulary and usage, and to be able to answer questions related to this part meaningfully. Keeping this in mind, dear students, come, let's listen to part 2 of Deep Water by William Douglas. Pages 25, 26 and 27. It seemed a long way down. Those 9 feet were more like 90, and before I touched bottom, my lungs were ready to burst. But when my feet hit bottom, I summoned all my strength and made what I thought was a great spring upwards. I imagined I would bob to the surface like a cork. Instead, I came up slowly. I opened my eyes and saw nothing but water, water that had a dirty yellow tinge to it. I grew panicky. I reached up, as if to grab a rope, and my hands clutched only at water. I was suffocating. I tried to yell, but no sound came out. Then my eyes and nose came out of the water, but not my mouth. I flailed at the surface of the water, swallowed and choked. I tried to bring my legs up, but they hung as dead weights. Paralyzed and rigid, a great force was pulling me under. I screamed, but only the water heard me. I had started on the long journey back to the bottom of the pool. I struck at the water as I went down, expending my strength as one in a nightmare fights an irresistible force. I'd lost all my breath, my lungs ached, my head throbbed, I was getting dizzy, but I remembered the strategy. I would spring from the bottom of the pool and come like a cork to the surface. I would lie flat on the water, strike out with my arms, and thrash with my legs. Then I would get to the edge of the pool and be safe. I went down, down, endlessly. I opened my eyes, nothing but water with a yellow glow, dark water that one could not see through. And then sheer, stark terror seized me, terror that knows no understanding, terror that knows no control, terror that no one can understand who has not experienced it. I was shrieking underwater. I was paralyzed underwater, stiff, rigid with fear. Even the screams in my throat were frozen. Only my heart and the pounding in my head said that I was still alive. And then, in the midst of the terror, came a touch of reason. I must remember to jump when I hit the bottom. At last, I felt the tiles under me. My toes reached out as if to grab them. I jumped with everything I had, but the jump made no difference. The water was still around me. I looked for ropes, ladders, water wings. Nothing but water. A mass of yellow water held me. Stark terror took an even deeper hold on me, like a great change, like a great charge of electricity. I shook and trembled with fright. My arms wouldn't move, my legs wouldn't move. I tried to call for help, to call for mother. Nothing happened. And then, strangely, there was light. I was coming out of the awful yellow water. At least my eyes were. My nose was almost out too. Then I started down a third time. I sucked for air and got water. The yellowish light was going out. Then all effort ceased. I glanced. I relaxed. Even my legs felt limp. And blackness swept over my brain. It wiped out fear. It wiped out terror. There was no more panic. It was quiet and peaceful. Nothing to be afraid of. This is nice, to be drowsy, to go to sleep. No need to jump. Too tired to jump. It's nice to be carried gently, to float along in space. Tender arms around me, tender arms like mother's. Now I must go to sleep. I crossed to oblivion, and the curtain of life fell. Students, you just listened to the passages of part 2, Deep Water, given on pages 25, 26, and 27. Now, let us analyze these passages critically. Students, we find that to William Douglas, swimming presented a great challenge. He was totally overcome by his fear of water. This fear became even deeper when he joined the YMCA pool at Yakima. Here, he was ducked in by a powerful, sinewy 18-year-old boy. Douglas, who did not know anything about swimming and was extremely fearful of water, was sure to be drowned now. He kept his wits and tried to plan to make efforts for his survival. Though his limbs felt paralyzed and all his body was rigid, yet Douglas pushed himself as soon as he touched the bottom of the pool. But nothing hopeful happened. He kept drowning. In the deeper end of the pool, the awful yellow water surrounded him. He could not now make a third effort. All turned dark. It removed fear and panic. Finally, he was at peace now. He felt sleepy. He felt as if he was being lovingly carried in arms like the arms of his mother. He felt as if his this lifetime had ended and he had moved ahead. That is why he says, I crossed to oblivion and the curtain of life fell. Students, in part 2 of Deep Water, William Douglas shares with the reader the psychological analysis of his fear of water. He gives to us a third eye view of a deep fear he struggles throughout, not just mentally but physically too. He almost died by drowning, yet Douglas recollects all of his experience to narrate the minute details to tell us how scary it is to be drowned and how, in contrast, peaceful it is to suddenly realize that near death experience can bring relief. Now, students, let's venture ahead to ponder over some questions related to this part. First question: what is the misadventure that William Douglas speaks about? The misadventure that William Douglas speaks about here happened to him in the YMCA swimming pool at Yakima. He was sitting by the poolside one day when a big bruiser of a boy, 18 years of age, came. This big lad threw Douglas in the deep end of the pool. Douglas did not know then how to swim. He was just 10 or 11 and narrowly escaped death by drowning. Now, students, let's check out question number 2. The question is: what were the series of emotions and fears that Douglas experienced when he was thrown into the pool? What plans did he make to come to the surface? Answer: Douglas was frightened out of his wits, yet he planned that when his feet would hit the bottom, he would make a jump. When he would reach the surface, then he would pedal to the side of the pool. But his plan did not work out. In the end, he was left paralyzed underwater. His head and heart were pounding. His voice did not come out. He shook with fear. He felt that the curtain of life had fallen upon him. He felt drowsy and at peace now. Now, students, for question number 3. The question is: how did this experience, the experience of drowning, affect him? Answer: Douglas was deeply affected, though he was now safe. But for weeks the fear of water haunted his heart. He was weak in the legs and sick in his stomach. He avoided water everywhere he could and and when wherever he could. तो विद्यार्थियों, हमने पढ़ा कि कैसे विलियम डगलस पाठक को अवगत कराते हैं अपने पानी में डूबने के भय से। कैसे पानी उनके लिए एक चैलेंज बन जाता है और वो दृढ़ निश्चय करते हैं कि पानी में वो तैराकी सीखेंगे। इसी लक्ष्य से विलियम डगलस याकीमा के YMCA स्विमिंग पूल में तैराकी सीखने के इरादे से बैठे हुए हैं, परंतु एक 18 वर्षीय वेल बिल्ट लड़का उनको पानी के गहरे छोर में धकेल देता है। विलियम डगलस बताते हैं कि कैसे फिर उन्हें इस गहरे पानी में अपनी जान को बचाने के लिए क्या-क्या करना पड़ता है, लेकिन वे हेल्पलेस सिद्ध होते हैं और उनको ये डर बहुत ज़्यादा और गहरा ले जाता है। तो विद्यार्थियों, डगलस ने विस्तार में विवरण दिया है हमें अपने YMCA स्विमिंग पूल में ऑलमोस्ट पानी में डूब जाने के इस अनुभव का। डूबने से बचने के लिए इन्होंने बहुत प्रयास किए, परंतु वे सब असफल ही साबित हुए हैं अभी तक, जो पार्ट 2 में हमें पढ़ने को मिला। Thus, students, what we find in part 2 is a third angle view that Douglas has given us about his panic of being drowned, almost drowned in YMCA swimming pool. We will read about what happened next in part 3, followed by part 4 ultimately. So, all of you keep reading, listening, and practicing. Have a great day ahead. God bless you.